Well, hello everybody. How's it going? Anna Sabramowicz here. So wonderful of you to join me. So this is video 2 of a 3-part series on where interactive storytelling adds a ton of value. Now, if you missed video 1, I'll put a link to it underneath the video. Now make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss. I've got 12 amazing tips for you on where interactive stories actually augment the learning experience. And the reason I'm doing this is because a lot of people message me and they're like, listen, Anna, I'm trying to do an interactive story, but I don't know how to position this to my stakeholders and clients. I don't know how to express to them the value that this actually delivers. And so what I'm doing here is I'm helping you, hopefully, pitch these to your stakeholders and clients. And then once you get that project, you get so stoked and excited that you're like, well, I better work with Anna now to put together the most amazing interactive story ever. So by the way, there's a link underneath the video to my calendar so you can check it out and book a strategy session with me. But before we get there, I wanted to share 4 more awesome tips on why interactive stories are just so valuable to that entire learning experience. Because it's not a single event that's going to get somebody to take action or change their life. It is going to be consistent exposure over time. And I wanted to share with you where an interactive story actually adds a ton of value so that you can augment that path. Because a lot of organizations already have a ton of training and learning that they're doing, but it's not getting used. So there's ways to augment that strategy, and that's what I want to talk about here. So I'm going to give you 4 tips on how to do that. Make sure you stick around to the end so you can experience all magic 4 of them today, okay? All right, let's get into the first one. So the first thing is the compound effect. What is that? So basically, this is what's cool. An interactive story has the ability to compress time, right? And why is this important? And it's good and bad. It's a good and bad compression of time. So let's say the first time you had your first cigarette, the next day you got lung cancer. You would never pick up a cigarette, right? You'd be like, oh my gosh, tomorrow I'm going to have lung cancer. So in real life, that doesn't happen. That's why people still smoke. But let's say you did that in an interactive story. You were able to show immediately the consequences of an action that has really long delayed consequences over time, right? You could do that. That's what's fantastic. You could do that also with positive consequences where it's hard to see the benefits right off. Like, let's say somebody picks up a habit where they walk 20 extra minutes every single day than they did before, and in a year they lose 10 pounds because they actually did that. Well, once again, you could compress time. Another piece is, let's say somebody forgets to latch something, and this happens a lot, I think, with errors and mistakes, especially in safety, especially if we are far removed from the consequences. And a lot of times in organizations that are kind of like, let's say you have a call center and then you have like a manufacturing center and a shipping center or distribution center, what happens is a lot of times the people that are working in those different areas don't understand how because they're so removed from the consequences, they don't understand how those consequences get affected or how their actions affect the business. And so this is an opportunity for you to showcase how that actually happens, which is so cool. It's kind of cool. One of the projects that I worked on years ago was we had these people in a call center, and they were working for a multinational company, and they would take these big orders in from like to build hospitals, to build highways. Like this organization basically did supplies and infrastructure developments for North America and Europe. And see, this is kind of the interesting part. Once in a while, what would happen is, let's say a project would finish, let's say a hospital would finish, and there would be a whole bunch of resources as far as like supplies that were left over, that then let's say the contractor would return. It would be like, I ordered way too much of this, and we have all these pallets of whatever, electrical stuff or supplies, and they're just sitting there, I'm returning them, right? And depending on the timeline, they would be returnable. Now, once in a while, what would happen is that person would say, here's what I'm returning, and they would return things like they would put on their invoice things like, let's say, brooms. This company didn't make brooms, didn't sell brooms, but because the order volume and the size of the order, the magnitude of the purchase was so huge, the staff were like, okay, we'll just let that go. Because it's just a couple of $100 and a couple of, we're a program for a couple of $1 million. It's not a big deal. But it ends up being a big deal, because what happened is all of those little purchases where they would be coming back to the distribution center, all of a sudden you'd have 1,000 brooms, and you're like, we don't sell these things. So now they had to create a storage compound in order to store all of these things that they now couldn't sell because they kept on getting returned to them, but they weren't a part of their sales process. So they wanted to start eliminating that, so that basically the call center staff would realize that their impact, like these small little actions, add up to something huge and a giant burden. And then that was a part of the interactive experience, which I think is just kind of comical, because we do little things all the time, but we don't know how they're going to affect in the long run. If you have 1,000 people doing a small action, that is going to have a huge butterfly effect, right? So that's what I think an interactive story can do, is really showcase what is, the consequences of our actions over time, and also how we have that compound effect on things that are happening, and how can we either for the good or for the bad, either do more of those activities or do less of them, so that we don't impact things negatively. So I thought that was a cool example, because I really enjoyed working on that project. I was like, this is going to save this company so many thousands of dollars, and also grief because of all these products that they now have to keep in store because they don't know what to do with them. So I thought that was pretty cool, and a great example here. So not only, the compound effect has not just about time, but about how what your actions that you do affect other people. And that could be from hospitals to basically any organizations that has silos, right? Okay, now the other piece. Passive to inspired. Okay, what does this mean? Now, as far as I'm concerned, every single person who enters my world and is looking at my interactive story, every single learner, as we call them, doesn't want to be there. Like, they are busy, they have things going on, and they are probably, let's be honest, jaded by the past experiences and e-learnings that they've had. And what happens is they're now like, oh, one more thing I got to do. So I expect them to not be interested in the topic, to be pretty passive about it, sometimes even hostile, right? I'm in hostile territory. So one of the things I'm trying to do really is to get them to be excited about the topic, to get them to, when a tutorial comes up about, software XYZ, they're like, whoa, this is going to solve my problem, because that interactive story showed me how, Jim did that, and then this is what he was able to achieve. So that's one of the cool things, is that if you do this right, and you structure that story and those scenarios in a very meaningful way, what you can do is you can get people excited about the future, the possibility of something that they never even imagined for themselves. Oh my gosh, I could use this software and it would help me actually serve my customers better. Or, wow, if I just applied this strategy, I could actually have a better experience with my team. So all these things that they never thought about. So I want them to go from, not even caring about the topic in any way and thinking this is just going to be another one of those things, to actually selling them on that possibility that something could be cool, would help them in their own lives, and actually get them on that forward motion to seek out more resources because they're excited about it now. So passive to inspired. This is where an interactive story can do that, which is amazing. Okay, now the other thing, which kind of feeds into what I just talked about, persuasion. Listen, I think that we got to embrace that word a bit more as instructional designers, as e-learning developers, because when you think about it, what are you doing every day? You are, Dan Pink said this, to sell is human, but selling is about persuasion. And we are trying to persuade people who are in a space of something right now and tell them that, by the way, we got this better way. come over here, check out these tutorials, check out these job aids, check out this tool kits, all this stuff, because it's going to help you live a better life. How do we know this? Because people who have applied this before have more sales. They're better leaders. They've gotten better results. They're better cooks. All those things. So you're trying to persuade. That's all you're doing, really, at the base of it, the first principles of it. And so what's really cool about an interactive story is traditionally what people do is they do this whole what's in it for me thing, right? The what's in it for me. And what you do is you try to imagine what the person is going to get out of it when they go through this training. You will get to make more money. You will get to save more time. All these kind of generic things. You get to keep your job. I've seen that before. But realistically, we don't really know. We don't know why that person would be motivated, especially if we got 300 people in the room. The motivations could be all different. There's a reason behind everybody's motivation for doing something. And if we want to tap into it, one of the best ways to tap into it is to have that person think of the motivation that they feel for themselves and come up with that reason for themselves before they even jump on to the training, right? Like the training that is the software training, the leadership training, the management training, whatever it is. So how do we do that? Well, guess what? Storytelling, that's why interactive stories are so powerful. You have all this training already, but you're trying to get people to become aware that there's value in it for them, so that they are basically intrinsically motivated to jump on that train because they've sold themselves. You sell them by sharing a story with them. And the story, what it does is, there's a resistance when somebody first experiences new information. They're like, this is change. I don't like it. And also, I'm already doing things the right way. That's what a lot of, you have a leadership course and people are like, I'm already a great leader. Okay, I don't need this. Or what are you going to tell me? They go, what are you going to tell me that I don't already know, right? People are already walking with this. What are you going to tell me? I've already done this. So you're trying to basically, your goal is to kind of break through that apathy. With storytelling, what happens is people get, if they get lost in that story, you've crafted it well, you created a character that people relate to, and I have other videos on this. So make sure you subscribe and check out the other videos I have on this topic. What happens is their ego gets kind of diminished for just that part where they're immersed in the story. They get lost in the character. It's kind of when you go to the movie theater and you're watching that movie, it's kind of like you're in it, right? Like you're no longer the observer, you're kind of in it. You feel the emotions, you feel the struggle, you cry at the end because it's your story. It's become your story. So what you want to do is you want to create the same environment for the learners in your interactive experience, where what happens is they get so immersed in that story that they become the character. They're making decisions as that character, which is so cool. And then what happens is they are more susceptible to being persuaded with new ideas. The ahas that they're getting, they're deeper because they're no longer going, this is not me. I don't believe in this. They're going, oh, Jim's going through this. This is what Jim's options are. This is what he believes the options are. You get lost in that character, and then what happens is you just stop being yourself for a little while, and that helps you drop your ego, and you're more open to influence and persuasion and getting some new ideas that you wouldn't have considered before because they offended your ego. And you had a super resistance against it. So this is a way for us to share ideas that are new, share revelations, share ahas, without constantly coming up against the ego going, nope, that's not for me. Nope, I wouldn't do it that way. Because we're not tackling their approach, our learner's approach. We're showing them what somebody else is doing, and they're helping somebody else make those decisions. So we're not directly affecting them in any way. But they let their guard down, and we can show them things that they didn't think were possible and then didn't think were possible for them. Powerful, right? So that's why I think interactive storytelling, if your goal is to persuade people of new ideas they're not ready for, magic. Okay, last one for this video. I hope you're enjoying this. If you are, make sure you pop it in the comments. Make sure you give me a like to let me know that you are enjoying this and you want to see more of videos like this. Now, so this is what's kind of cool. A lot of people know how to already create really meaningful contextual scenarios. Although if you don't, I hope you jump on a strategy session with me, because that's like one of the things that I absolutely love to help people do. And this is something that we do in our community and program. But one of the things that happens is people have all these situations, scenarios, contextual decisions, but they don't know how to get them all to work together. They're kind of random. Now, this is where an interactive story is so cool. So what's kind of neat is that our minds, especially if we're in a storytelling mode, will do something called the Gestalt effect, where what will happen is even events that are seemingly random, although they can't be too random because then it'll break the story. But what will happen is our mind will automatically, if you have a common character, they have a goal, and there's this consistency, that you can actually have people combine these different scenarios and jump from seemingly random events, situation to situation, but our brain will automatically string that, naturally connect them into a story, because we've already pre-framed it that this is a story of an individual who's going through this particular experience, which is so amazing, because I think a lot of times what happens is we feel, I gotta over-explain this, or I gotta somehow make this a super connection. Well, the brain actually already does that for us magically by itself, because we've introduced the storytelling element to it. So what's cool is that now, if you have a whole bunch of scenarios, there is some massaging that goes on, but you can really connect things that are quite random in a sequence, and the brain will be like, yeah, that's totally natural. Okay, what's next? Oh, we're in a plane right now? Okay, cool. And then, oh, we're in a boardroom? Done. So there's a lot of that cool hacking that we can do of things that our brains already do naturally by simply introducing a storytelling element to our scenarios. And it's a beautiful thing. So I hope you found those useful. And if you have questions, of course, post them in the comments. Now, like I said, the goal of this is for you to really get comfortable pitching these ideas, figuring out where they augment what's already working for your client, so that you can create an interactive story. Once you get that contract, or somebody says, yeah, let's do it, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to make this amazing. I better jump on with Anna to make sure I join the community so that I can do something awesome, because I would love to actually help you craft your interactive story. That'd be so fun. So underneath the video, I'll put a link to my calendar so you can book a strategy session with me, and we can talk about what that looks like. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe, because there's one more video coming out in this trilogy of and with 4 more tips about where interactive stories add a ton of value. All right, take care, friends. Wonderful to have you here. Bye.